I sent my son a message this morning. It said, "Thank you for all you've taught me. Because of you, we're beginning to glimpse a richer life than the one we were born into. A beautiful bit of cosmic irony, considering you were born of us." How does a child become the teacher? And what does that reversal reveal about the nature of consciousness itself? You've probably felt it. That moment when someone describes you accurately, your accomplishments, your capabilities, and instead of pride, you feel exposed, like a fraud. I felt it recently, reading a description of myself. Everything in it was true, and I was moved to tears. Not tears of gratitude, tears of shame. The wounded child inside saying, "I'm not worthy of this. I'm faking it." Here's what's strange. This feeling is normal. High achievers feel it most intensely. The more successful you become, the more inadequate you often feel. Psychology calls this imposter syndrome and treats it as pathology, something broken that needs fixing. But what if it's not broken? What if it's working exactly as designed? Imagine two tribes 50,000 years ago. Genetically identical except for one difference. Tribe A. When their needs were met, food, safety, shelter, they felt satisfied. They stopped striving. They rested. Tribe B. When their needs were met, they still felt restless, never quite satisfied, always driven to do more, prepare more, improve more. 1,000 generations later, which tribe are your ancestors from? The anxious one, the driven one, the one that never felt good enough. Because in the ancestral environment, contentment was a death sentence. The confident human who thought, "I've got this," walked into situations they weren't prepared for. The anxious one who thought, "Am I ready? What am I missing?" stayed vigilant and survived. Your demons, inadequacy, anxiety, restlessness, aren't accidents. They're your inheritance, the very thing that kept your ancestors alive. But there's something deeper happening. Something physics can help us understand. The universe has a direction. Entropy always increases. Order becomes disorder. Hot becomes cold. Structure becomes randomness. This isn't opinion. It's the most fundamental law we know. And life? Life is the universe's way of accelerating this process. Yes, you maintain local order, your body, your thoughts, your organized life. But you do it by burning energy, generating heat, creating waste. You speed up entropy everywhere else. Your brain alone, 2% of your body weight, consumes 20% of your energy. Consciousness is expensive. And what does consciousness do? It monitors. It regulates. It notices when things aren't optimal and drives you to fix them. That feeling of inadequacy? That's your consciousness detecting a gap between where you are and where you could be. That restlessness? That's your system refusing to settle into equilibrium, because equilibrium means death. Inner conflict isn't a bug in your psychology. It's consciousness doing what consciousness does. Monitoring entropy, managing constraints, keeping you in motion. The demons are the engine. If inner conflict were just human, a quirk of language or culture or our unusual evolutionary path, we'd be alone in experiencing it. But we're not. A mother dolphin carries her dead calf for 17 days. 1,000 miles of swimming. No survival benefit. Pure grief. Elephants return to the sites where family members died. Years later, they touch the bones gently, standing vigil, still mourning. Gray parrots, when prevented from solving puzzles, show clear frustration. Even when they're fed and safe, they need engagement. They're never quite satisfied with doing nothing. Corvids, crows, and ravens hold what look like funerals. They gather around their dead, calling out, passing information. The behavior persists even when no obvious threat is present. These species evolved consciousness independently. Dolphins in the ocean, elephants on land, parrots in the air. Different environments, different selection pressures, millions of years of separate evolution. But the pattern is the same. They grieve, they strive, they show anxiety about social standing, they experience internal conflict between competing drives. If consciousness requires inner conflict in dolphins, elephants, and parrots, species with completely different brains, different evolutionary histories, then maybe inner conflict is an accident. Maybe it's what consciousness is. Not all life experiences inner conflict. A bacterium moves toward glucose automatically. No choice, no hesitation, no debate, pure thermodynamic reflex. But somewhere along the evolutionary ladder, something changes. A fish might be at the edge. A chicken probably just crosses it, learning, remembering, choosing, showing individual personality, experiencing frustration, fear, basic stress, not sophisticated consciousness, no existential dread, but something more than pure instinct. The threshold appears where environmental complexity exceeds what automatic regulation can handle. When you must balance multiple competing needs simultaneously, eat versus flee, individual versus offspring, immediate versus delayed, you need more than reflex. You need consciousness. And consciousness, even simple consciousness, comes with demons. Here's the ultimate test. If aliens arrive tomorrow, conscious beings who evolved on a completely different planet, what's the first thing we should ask them? Not, what's the square root of 2? They already know mathematics. They built starships. The first question should be, do you have demons too? Because if they're truly conscious, not just sophisticated artificial intelligence, they must experience inner conflict. The math doesn't care if you're carbon-based or silicon-based. The thermodynamics doesn't care if you evolved in water or in vacuum. If you're conscious enough to manage entropy at high complexity, you have competing constraints. If you have competing constraints, you experience conflict. If you experience conflict, you have demons. If they say, no, we don't experience that, then I'm wrong. Inner conflict is Earth-specific, a biological accident, not thermodynamic necessity. But if they say, yes, we experience something like that, even if they describe it in ways we barely recognize, then we know something profound. Inner conflict isn't a quirk. It's what consciousness is, and we've just discovered the universal language. This changes everything. Inner conflict isn't just something we experience. It's how we recognize consciousness anywhere it appears. An advanced AI could know all mathematics, understand all physics, optimize all decisions perfectly. But if it experiences no tension when choosing, no restlessness when idle, no sense that something's missing even when everything's optimal, it's not conscious. It's just very good at computing. But if it experiences conflict, genuine tension between competing objectives, not just calculation, then it's conscious. And we have moral obligations toward it. This is the recognition protocol. How do we know something is conscious? Not by its intelligence, not by its behavior, not even by its self-reports, by its demons. If it struggles, it's conscious. If it doesn't, it might just be computing. And this is also the basis for universal ethics. All conscious beings, human, dolphin, elephant, parrot, potentially AI, potentially aliens, all experience the same fundamental thing. The challenge of managing competing constraints in a universe that always demands more. We all know what it means to struggle. We all understand suffering. We all face the question, why keep going when satisfaction never lasts? That's the universal language. Not mathematics, not physics. The shared experience of consciousness managing entropy. Hello, fellow demon dancers. Tell us about your struggles. Let's figure out this dance together. So, what do you do with this understanding? Not eliminate your demons. That's impossible and probably undesirable. Without inner conflict, you'd settle into equilibrium. You'd stop striving. You'd become, essentially, not conscious. Instead, you learn to dance. 3 chairs to sit in. Chair 1, the wounded child. I'm not good enough. I'm a fraud. Pure emotional reaction. Chair 2, the defensive adult. I must prove myself. I must work harder. Rigid, exhausted, driven. Chair 3, the integrated self. I notice Chair 1 speaking. I recognize this is the engine, not truth about me. I choose how to respond. I'll use this energy to build something, knowing it's temporary, and I'll build anyway. The difference isn't eliminating the feeling. It's knowing which chair you're sitting in, and choosing consciously. You still feel inadequate sometimes. That's the engine running. That's what kept your ancestors alive. That's what makes you creative, careful, driven. But now you're not controlled by it. You're dancing with it. I need the tide to wash away my sandcastle so I can build again. That's the insight that changed everything for me. We build knowing everything's temporary. Relationships end, projects finish, even galaxies die. Entropy wins eventually. So why build? Because the building is the point, not the permanent structure, the act of creation itself. Your inner conflict, that feeling that nothing's ever quite good enough, isn't curse. It's what keeps you building. It's why you don't stop when you've achieved enough. It's why satisfaction doesn't last, and that's okay. The universe creates conscious beings who feel inadequate precisely so they'll never stop striving. We think we're seeking happiness, achievement, legacy. We're actually serving thermodynamic necessity, accelerating entropy through perpetual creative motion. But here's the cosmic joke. Once you see this, once you understand you're dancing with entropy itself, you're not trapped by it. You're participating consciously. You're still building sandcastles. The tide is still coming, but now you're doing it with eyes open. My son taught me this. The child became the teacher. The cosmic irony I mentioned at the beginning. Through 17 years of shadow work, relationship repair, and searching for frameworks to explain what we were experiencing, we discovered the demons we were trying to eliminate weren't the problem, they were the fuel. We learned to dance with them, together. You have demons. Inadequacy despite success. Anxiety about the future. Restlessness, even when life is good. Guilt about choices. Grief that won't fully resolve. You've been told these are problems to solve, pathologies to treat, weaknesses to overcome. What if they're not? What if they're the signature of consciousness itself? The unavoidable consequence of being aware in a universe running toward heat death, trying to maintain order while knowing it's temporary. What if dolphins have them? What if elephants do? What if aliens would if we met them? What if the demons are how we recognize each other? Across species, across planets, across any substrate consciousness might inhabit. The universal language isn't mathematics, it's struggle. And the invitation isn't to eliminate the struggle. It's to dance with it consciously. To build your sandcastle knowing the tide is coming. To strive knowing satisfaction won't last. To love knowing loss is inevitable. To create knowing nothing's permanent. And to do it anyway. Eyes open. Chair 3. Dancing. Because consciousness isn't meant to be comfortable. It's meant to accelerate entropy through perpetual creative motion. And you, with all your demons, all your struggles, all your beautiful inadequacy, you're doing exactly what you're designed to do. You're conscious, you're alive, you're dancing.